Ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear about something. The world is full of words, so many in fact that they often lose their meaning. And here's a harsh reality. Some men, when they speak, they lie. And you must not fall for it. When a man claims absolute certainty, especially about complex issues, he may be misleading you or himself. True wisdom acknowledges uncertainty. The world is an immensely comprehension of any single individual. When someone presents an idea with unwavering confidence without leaving room for doubt, you should immediately be skeptical. Now, this does not mean that confidence itself is a flaw. Confidence is necessary for leadership, decision-making, and progress. But confidence without evidence, confidence without the willingness to be challenged, is not a sign of intelligence. It is a sign of arrogance, or worse, deception. Consider history. The most dangerous figures, tyrants, cult leaders, con men, often spoke in absolutes. They told their followers, "This is the truth, and nothing else matters." They did not invite debate. They did not encourage questions. They demanded obedience to their words, and people, desperate for certainty in an uncertain world, followed them. They accepted the words as truth because they feared the alternative: doubt, complexity, and responsibility. But here is the truth. Any man who understands the world deeply knows that certainty is rare. Life is filled with competing perspectives, intricate systems, and unpredictable consequences. A scientist never declares something to be absolute truth. Rather, he says, based on current evidence, this appears to be the most accurate understanding. That is wisdom. That is humility. That is a sign of someone who is seeking the truth rather than someone who is fabricating it. Now, why do people fall for deceptive certainty? Because it is comfortable. The world is chaotic, and chaos breeds fear. If someone offers you a simple, confident answer that appears to eliminate the chaos, it is tempting to accept it without question. This is why people fall for manipulative political slogans, why they believe in simplistic ideologies, and why they trust individuals who speak with unshakable confidence despite lacking real knowledge. They are not seeking the truth, they are seeking relief from uncertainty. But relief from uncertainty is not the same as truth. If you want to be strong, if you want to be truly educated, you must resist the temptation of simplistic certainty. You must be willing to sit with doubt. You must be able to say, "I don't know." That is one of the most powerful statements a person can make. It is an admission of humility, an openness to learning, and a commitment to intellectual honesty. Think about your own experiences. Have you ever met someone who refused to admit they were wrong? Who argued endlessly even when presented with clear evidence? That person was not interested in truth. They were interested in maintaining their illusion of certainty. And why? Because admitting uncertainty feels like weakness to them. But in reality, it is the opposite. The strongest people are those who can say, "I may be wrong, and I am willing to learn." There is another danger in deceptive certainty, and it is this. When a man believes he knows everything, he stops growing. If you assume you already have all the answers, you stop looking for better ones. This is why the wisest individuals throughout history, Socrates, for example, made questioning the foundation of their philosophy. Socrates famously said that he was wise only because he knew that he knew nothing. That is a lesson every person must learn if they wish to avoid being deceived. Now let's consider the flip side. What happens when someone presents themselves as uncertain, open to challenge, and willing to consider multiple perspectives? That is a person you can trust. That is someone who understands the complexity of reality. They do not need to convince you through forceful declarations. Their wisdom is evident in their careful, measured approach to truth. But here's the challenge. Listening to such people requires effort. They will not give you easy answers. They will not tell you what you want to hear. They will challenge your beliefs, push you to think more deeply, and force you to confront uncomfortable realities. That is why many people reject them. It is easier to follow the man who says, "I have all the answers," than the man who says, "Let's work through this together and discover the truth." So what can you do to protect yourself from deceptive certainty? First, develop your ability to think critically. Do not take statements at face value. Ask questions, demand evidence, look for inconsistencies. Second, observe the behavior of the person speaking. Do they allow themselves to be questioned, or do they react defensively? Are they willing to admit when they are wrong, or do they double down even when proven incorrect? Third, practice intellectual humility yourself. Be willing to say, "I don't know." Be willing to change your mind. Be willing to seek out new perspectives, even if they challenge your current beliefs. At the end of the day, certainty is seductive, but truth is rarely simple. If someone speaks with unshakable confidence about a complex issue, be be skeptical. If someone refuses to entertain other perspectives, be cautious. And if someone claims to have all the answers, understand that they are either lying to you or lying to themselves. Either way, do not fall for it. Language is not just a tool for communication. It is a tool for influence, for persuasion, and, unfortunately, for manipulation. Every word spoken carries weight, and how those words are arranged, delivered, and received determines their impact. It is easy to assume that language is neutral, that words simply but that is not true. Words shape reality. They have the power to build civilizations, inspire movements, and alter human behavior. And when words are used dishonestly, they can be a means of control rather than a means of truth. Consider how easily people are swayed by language. A politician can frame a policy in a way that makes it sound noble when in reality it is destructive. A salesperson can make a product seem essential when it is entirely unnecessary. A manipulator can twist words to make you doubt yourself, to make you feel guilty, or to make you act against your own best interests. Words are not just sounds, they are weapons, and the moment you forget that, you become vulnerable to deception. Now, why does manipulative language work so well? It works because it appeals to emotion rather than reason. Humans are emotional creatures. We like to believe that we are rational, that we make decisions based on logic and evidence, but more often than not, we make choices based on how something makes us feel. Manipulative people understand this. They do not argue based on facts. They argue based on feelings. They use words designed to trigger fear, guilt, outrage, or desire. And when emotions take over, logic takes a back seat. Think about advertising. Have you ever seen a commercial that presents a rational case for why a product is superior? Rarely. Instead, advertisements rely on images of success, beauty, happiness, or security. They do not tell you that their product is the best. They show you a version of yourself that you could be if only you purchased what they were selling. This is a form of manipulation. It bypasses your rational mind and speaks directly to your emotion. And once you recognize this tactic, you start to see it everywhere. But manipulation is not limited to advertising. It happens in everyday conversations. Have you ever been in a situation where someone used guilt to get their way, where they framed the situation in such a way that if you did not comply, you would be perceived as the bad person? This is not honest communication. It is control disguised as persuasion. The words may seem innocent, but the intent behind them is anything but. One of the most dangerous forms of manipulative language is the absolute statement. When someone says, if you really cared about me, you would do this, they are not making a rational argument. They are using emotion as leverage. When a leader says, anyone who disagrees with me is against progress, they are not inviting discussion. They are shutting it down. When a person says, there is no other way, they are not speaking truthfully. They are preventing you from thinking critically. This is why it is crucial to analyze the words people use, not just at the surface level, but at the level of intent. Ask yourself, why is this person phrasing their argument this way? Are they presenting evidence, or are they appealing to my emotions? Are they open to discussion, or are they trying to control the conversation? If the answer leans toward control rather than dialogue, you are dealing with manipulation. Another important thing to watch for is redefinition. Manipulators often take words that have a commonly understood meaning and subtly change them to fit their agenda. This is particularly common in politics and media, where the same event can be framed in drastically different ways depending on the choice of words. A protest can be described as a fight for justice or a violent riot, depending on what narrative someone wants to push. The exact same policy can be labeled as a necessary reform or a dangerous overreach. The words themselves do not change reality, but they change how people perceive reality, and that is what makes them powerful. Now, you might be wondering, how do you protect yourself from manipulative language? The answer is simple, but not easy. You must cultivate awareness. You must learn to listen actively, not just to what is being said, but how it is being said. Pay attention to emotional triggers. If you feel an immediate surge of fear, guilt, or outrage after hearing something, take a step back. Ask yourself, is this an emotional reaction or is this a logical conclusion? If someone's words are designed to provoke rather than inform, that is a sign of manipulation. It is also important to demand clarity. Manipulators often rely on vague, abstract statements that sound profound but mean nothing. If someone speaks in absolutes, ask for specifics. If someone makes a broad claim, ask for evidence. If someone tries to shut down discussion with an emotional appeal, insist on reasoned debate. Do not let someone control you with words simply because they sound confident. There is a famous saying, the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. That is true in more ways than one. If you do not understand how language is used to manipulate, your perception of reality is shaped by those who do. But if you develop the ability to see through deceptive words, You take back control. You become immune to cheap persuasion, to emotional manipulation, to false narratives. You become someone who seeks truth rather than someone who is led by illusion. And in a world where words are constantly used as tools of influence, that is one of the most valuable skills you can have. Blind trust is a dangerous thing. It is comforting to believe that people always have good intentions, that words always match reality, and that promises will always be kept. But reality does not function that way. People lie, they deceive, sometimes they do so maliciously, but more often than not, they do so because it is easier. It is easier to tell someone what they want to hear than to confront difficult truths. It is easier to maintain an illusion than to face the consequences of honesty. And it is easier to manipulate than it is to earn trust through genuine integrity. This is why you cannot afford to be naive. Naivete is often mistaken for kindness or goodness, but it is not the same thing. A naive person assumes that everyone they meet is honest, that people will do what they say, and that no one would intentionally mislead them. This is a mistake. It is not wisdom. It is ignorance disguised as virtue. A naive person is not good in the moral sense. They are simply unprepared for the realities of life, and unprepared people suffer. They are taken advantage of, used, and discarded when they are no longer useful. This is not to say that you must become cynical or distrustful of everyone. That is the other extreme, and it is just as dangerous. If you assume that everyone is out to deceive you, you will never build meaningful relationships, you will isolate yourself, and you will become paranoid. The key is to develop a balanced perspective, one that allows for trust, but demands verification, one that sees the good in people but also recognizes their potential for deception, one that is neither blindly optimistic nor hopelessly pessimistic. The responsibility for discernment falls on you. If you believe every word you hear, you are not being kind, you are being irresponsible. It is your duty to test the truth of what people say, to watch their actions, and to determine whether their words align with reality. Trust must be earned, not given freely. This is especially true when dealing with people who stand to gain something from your belief. If someone benefits from your trust, you must be doubly cautious. You must ask yourself, why does this person want me to believe them? What do they gain from my trust? And most importantly, do their actions match their words? There is an old saying, a man is only as good as his word, but this is not entirely true. A man is only as good as his actions. Words are cheap. Anyone can make promises. Anyone can say the right things. But actions require sacrifice. If a person's actions do not align with their words, then their words mean nothing. If someone claims to be honest but is caught in lies, they are dishonest. If someone claims to be loyal but betrays others, they are disloyal. If someone claims to be selfless but consistently acts in self-interest, they are selfish. It is as simple as that. The problem is that many people want to believe in words rather than actions because words are easier to accept. It is more convenient to believe that a person is honest than to scrutinize their behavior. It is more comforting to accept a promise at face value than to wait and see if it is actually kept. But convenience is not a virtue. The truth is often inconvenient, and facing it requires effort, it requires patience, and it requires a willingness to accept that sometimes people are not who they say they are. This lesson is particularly important in the context of leadership. Throughout history, people have placed blind trust in leaders who spoke well but acted poorly. They followed charismatic figures who promised them prosperity, justice, or salvation, only to be led into ruin. Why? Because they believed words over actions. They wanted to believe that the person in power had their best interests at heart, even when all evidence suggested otherwise. This is one of the greatest tragedies of human nature. People will often ignore reality if the lie is more appealing. But you do not have to fall into this trap. You can train yourself to see through deception. You can develop the ability to recognize when words do not align with reality. This starts with observation. Pay attention to patterns. If a person consistently breaks promises, they will continue to do so. If someone lies once, they will likely lie again. If a leader, a friend, or a colleague speaks in grand, sweeping statements but never backs them up with action, they are not to be trusted. Another key skill is learning to ask the right questions. Do not accept vague statements or generalizations. When someone makes a claim, ask for specifics. If they promise something, ask how they plan to fulfill it. If they make a bold declaration, ask for evidence. The way a person responds to questioning tells you a great deal about their character. A truthful person welcomes scrutiny. A liar resents it. And finally, you must develop the courage to walk away from those who deceive you. Many people remain in situations where they are repeatedly lied to because they fear confrontation or because they want to believe that the person will change. But change is not something you should wait for. It is something you should observe. If a person proves themselves untrustworthy, take them at their actions, not their promises. The world is not kind to the naive. It is ruthless to those who do not take responsibility for their own discernment. If you allow yourself to believe every word spoken to you, you will be led astray. If you refuse to question, you will be manipulated. If you give trust freely, you will be betrayed. But if you take responsibility for your own discernment, if you demand proof before belief, if you observe actions rather than words, then you will be strong. You will not be fooled, and you will navigate the world with wisdom rather than with blind hope. Powerful people, those who seek influence and control, often understand human nature far better than the average person. They know what motivates people, what they fear, and what they desire, and they use that knowledge strategically. One of the most common tactics of those in power, whether in politics, business, or personal relationships, is the careful crafting of false choices. They present you with an illusion of options, but in reality, every path leads to their desired outcome. The trick is so subtle, so seamless, that many do not realize they are being manipulated until it is too late. This tactic works because people crave certainty. Life is chaotic and unpredictable, and when faced with uncertainty, people look for structure. They want clear options. They want to be told, here are your choices, pick one. And if those choices seem reasonable, they do not stop to ask whether other possibilities exist. They do not question the foundation of the choices themselves. Instead, they assume that what they have been given is all there is. This is a mistake. When someone presents you with a choice, your first instinct should not be to pick one. It should be to ask, are these my only options? The person offering you the choice has likely designed it in a way that benefits them. A manipulative leader might say, you're either with us or against us. A salesperson might say, would you like to buy the basic or premium package? A controlling partner might say, either you do this for me or you don't care about me. Notice the pattern? In each case, an artificial binary is created. The real choice, whether to engage at all, whether to consider other possibilities, is hidden, and most people never think to challenge it. This method of control is particularly effective when combined with time pressure. People who want to manipulate you know that rushed decisions are rarely wise ones. If you feel forced to make a choice quickly, you are far more likely to overlook hidden alternatives. This is why high-pressure sales tactics work so well. The salesperson tells you, this deal is only available for the next hour, creating a sense of urgency that clouds your ability to think clearly. Governments do the same thing during crises, introducing laws, restrictions, or policies under the claim that there is no time for debate. The moment you feel rushed into making a decision, step back, ask yourself, why am I being pressured? Who benefits from my immediate response? What alternatives have not been presented to me? False choices also thrive on emotional manipulation. If someone can get you emotionally invested in a decision, you're less likely to question it logically. A skilled manipulator will frame the choice in a way that makes one option seem morally superior. They will attach guilt, fear, or pride to the options to steer you in a particular direction. If you are made to feel like a bad person for even considering an alternative, you are being controlled. A leader might say, only a traitor would question this policy. A friend might say, if you really cared about me, you would do this. These are not arguments. They are coercion disguised as choice. And if you fall for them, you are not deciding freely, you are being led. One of the most dangerous consequences of accepting false choices is that it limits your ability to think creatively. If you believe that the only options available are the ones presented to you, you stop looking for better solutions. You accept constraints that may not even be real. This is why the most successful people in any field, whether in business, science, or art, are those who refuse to accept the choices given to them. Instead of picking between A or B, they create C. They redefine the problem. They look beyond the options they were handed and find solutions others never considered. This applies not just on an individual level, but on a societal level as well. Entire populations can be controlled through the use of false choices. A government might present two opposing ideologies as the only possibilities, keeping people trapped in a cycle of division, while alternative perspectives are ignored. A corporation might convince consumers that they must buy a product to solve a problem that may not even exist. If enough people believe in these choices, they become self-reinforcing. The illusion of choice becomes reality simply because no one dares to challenge it. Breaking free from this manipulation requires a shift in mindset. Instead of immediately accepting the choices given to you, train yourself to question them. When faced with a decision, do not just look at the options in front of you, look at the structure of the choice itself. Who created it? Why? What assumptions does it rely on? What alternatives exist that are not being mentioned? The moment you start asking these questions, the illusion begins to fall apart. It also requires a willingness to tolerate uncertainty. Many people accept false choices because the idea of an open-ended, ambiguous situation makes them uncomfortable. But discomfort is not the enemy, manipulation is. If the only way to achieve certainty is to accept a limited or deceptive choice, then it is better to embrace the unknown. It is better to stand in uncertainty than to walk confidently in the wrong direction. Perhaps the most important lesson is this: real power comes from the ability to define your own choices. The strongest individuals are not those who simply pick wisely from the options they are given. They are those who reject the false limitations placed before them and create their own path. If you want to be truly free, you must train yourself to see beyond the choices that others hand you. You must recognize when an option is designed to control you rather than to serve you, and you must have the courage to reject a rigged game entirely, even when everyone else is playing along. When someone says, "These are your only options," do not fall for it. When someone tells you it's either this or that, challenge them. The world is vast, complex, and full of possibilities. The moment you accept the choices given to you without question, you hand over control. But the moment you realize you can define your own choices, you take that control back. And that is the first step toward true independence. When someone repeatedly tells you who they are, you should believe them, not through their words, but through their actions. People reveal their true nature, not in the grand speeches they make, not in the promises they offer, but in the things they do when they think no one is watching. Words are cheap. Declarations of virtue, of honesty, of loyalty, these are meaningless if they are not backed by consistent behavior. And yet many people fall into the trap of believing what they want to believe rather than what reality is showing them. They listen to words that sound good instead of observing patterns that tell the truth. This is one of the fundamental flaws of human nature. People often cling to the idea of who someone could be rather than accepting who they are. They justify, they rationalize, they make excuses. He didn't mean it. She was just having a bad day. They'll change. This kind of thinking is dangerous. It blinds people to the truth. It keeps them trapped in relationships, friendships, and even institutions that do not serve them. And in the worst cases, it allows deception and abuse to continue unchecked. A person's character is not determined by isolated incidents, but by patterns. Anyone can act kindly once. Anyone can tell the truth when it is convenient. Anyone can make a promise, but what matters is what they do consistently. If someone lies once, it might be an accident. If they lie repeatedly, it is who they are. If someone betrays you once, they might regret it. If they betray you over and over, they do not respect you. If someone is unreliable time and time again, no amount of words will change that. When someone shows you their true nature through repeated actions, believe them. Many people do not want to believe what they see because the truth is painful. It is easier to live in the illusion that someone will change than to accept that they will not. This is especially true in personal relationships. A person might think, if I just love them enough, if I just explain it better, if I just give them more time, they will become the person I believe they can be. But people do not change because you want them to. They change because they choose to. And if their actions show you that they are unwilling to change, no amount of patience, love, or reasoning will alter that. The same principle applies in professional settings. If an employer consistently underpays, overworks, and disrespects employees, do not believe their promises that things will improve. They have already shown you how they operate. If a company repeatedly exploits its workers while putting out public statements about valuing employees, their true priorities are clear. If a politician says they stand for integrity, but is caught in scandals again and again, their words mean nothing. No matter how compelling their arguments, no matter how polished their image, the truth is in their behavior. This is why discernment is so important. You must train yourself to see patterns, to recognize when someone's actions do not align with their words. And when you notice that disconnect, you must have the courage to accept it. Many people do not want to admit they have been deceived, so they double down on their belief instead. They tell themselves, I must have misunderstood. I must be overreacting. But denial does not change reality. It only delays the inevitable. And the longer you ignore the truth, the greater the damage will be. Recognizing the truth does not mean reacting with anger or resentment. It does not mean seeking revenge or wasting energy trying to force someone to be different. It simply means accepting what is. It means adjusting your expectations based on reality rather than on hope. If someone consistently lies, you do not have to hate them. You simply recognize that they are not trustworthy and act accordingly. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, you do not have to argue with them. You simply remove yourself from situations where they have the opportunity to do so. There is great freedom in this kind of clarity. It allows you to make decisions based on truth rather than on illusion. It saves you from wasting time on people and situations that will never change. It prevents you from falling into the same traps over and over again. And most importantly, it allows you to invest your energy in people who are worthy of your trust. Because while there are many who will deceive, there are also those who will act with integrity. There are those who do what they say, who honor their commitments, who show through their actions that they are reliable. When you stop clinging to false hope, you open yourself up to finding those people. None of this means you must become cynical. It does not mean distrusting everyone or assuming the worst. It simply means paying attention. It means listening with your eyes, not just your ears. It means valuing truth over comfort, and it means having the strength to walk away from those who show you through their actions that they cannot be trusted. Life is too short to waste on illusions. The sooner you learn to believe what people show you, the sooner you take control of your own destiny. The sooner you stop waiting for others to change and start responding to who they really are, the stronger you become. And strength in a world full of deception is what will keep you free. The world is not a simple place, and people are not always what they seem. Words can be beautiful, persuasive, and comforting, but words alone mean nothing. It is actions that reveal the truth. A man can promise loyalty while betraying you behind your back. A leader can speak of justice while pursuing power for its own sake. A friend can say they care while repeatedly failing to show up when it matters. If you believe only in words, you will be deceived. But if you train yourself to watch patterns, to observe behavior, and to question false choices, you will develop the discernment necessary to navigate the complexities of life without being manipulated. This does not mean becoming cynical. It does not mean assuming that everyone is deceitful. It means seeing people for who they truly are rather than who they claim to be. It means understanding that real trust is earned, not given freely. It means recognizing when you are being presented with a false choice and refusing to accept it. It means believing what people show you rather than what you wish were true. The cost of ignoring these realities is high. It means wasted time, misplaced trust, and unnecessary suffering. But the reward for embracing them is strength. It is clarity. It is the ability to make choices based on truth, not illusion. And most importantly, it is freedom. The freedom to live your life on your own terms, guided by wisdom rather than deception. So do not fall for empty words. Do not be swayed by false promises. When a man tells you something that does not align with his actions, he is lying. And when you see the truth, have the courage to accept it, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. Because only by facing reality with open eyes can you truly take control of your own destiny.